Do you guys feel that financial pressure too to make these numbers? Because you know where you want to go and you know what it takes to get there. And you also don't want to let your family down. And you also want to maintain some level of consistency, right?
Ever feel like you're in a constant competition between your career and your husband's patience? Your kids think you work too hard, but hey, you're doing it all for them, right? The struggle is real, and I've been there too. Moments of feeling like a crappy mom and wife because once again, your kids had breakfast on their way to school, and you've got more important things on your plate than cooking and cleaning. Hey there, working moms who are juggling a million things and still wondering if you're doing it right. I'm Veronica Cisneros, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a mama of 3, and married for 24 years. Welcome to the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast, where we dive deep into the messy, chaotic, and sometimes hilarious world of mastering motherhood, marriage, and business. I get it. Balancing it all was never the goal, but here we are, trying anyway. I'm here to share my journey and guide you through yours. No more apologies for being driven, and definitely no compromises on your dreams. Together, we'll navigate the challenges of being a powerhouse in both business and family life. Join me as we tackle the uncomfortable conversations from being the breadwinner to changing the rules of what a marriage looks like. Let's figure out how to parent in a working parent household without the constant arguments or guilt. I'm Veronica Cisneros, and this is Empowered and Unapologetic, where we embrace the chaos, challenge the norms, and strive to live life on our own terms. Get ready for some real talk, actionable tips, and a few laughs along the way.
Welcome back, Empowered and Unapologetic listeners. Today, we're diving into a topic that many high-achieving women face: making more money than their husbands. It's a situation that comes with its own set of challenges, but fear not, we're here to navigate through them together. So you're the breadwinner in your household. Congratulations. But now what? Should you share a bank account or keep it separate? And how do we have that conversation with our partner without it turning into a sense of tension? Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Having a conversation about finances can be daunting, especially when you're making more money than your husband. However, it is essential for building trust and understanding in your relationship. Common struggles women face in this situation include feeling guilty for out-earning their partners, fearing that their success may be emasculating, and navigating societal expectations of traditional gender roles. So I've shared this story before. When my practice kicked off and it started to really bring in money, I would share with Willie how much money the practice was bringing in. And he was like, holy moly, like, holy shit, this is happening. And I'm like, yeah. And then it started to grow. And then it started to grow. And it went from me sharing with him how much it was making monthly, It went from me sharing with him how much it was making monthly to those same numbers now being weekly. And so it was quite a big jump. And don't get me wrong, it took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of struggle. There was a lot there, right? There was a lot of hard work. I'm not dismissing all of the hard work I've done. However, it was moving, and it was definitely moving. It was definitely growing. And I remember, like, Willie really didn't complain, and he didn't poke fun at me or anything. But I remember there was this one time where he said, and I've shared this part of the story before, but not necessarily why he shared this. He just looked at me and said, "You don't need me." And I remember thinking that was really odd that he was saying like, you don't need me. Because my reply, of course, was like, duh, I've never needed you. I've always wanted to be with you. And I'm not saying that like, being like a smartass or anything, but like, I really felt that way. I never wanted to need to be with Willie, right? Who wants to need to be in a relationship, right? Because you need to. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to be with my husband. And so when he said that, it was just like, what? Like, what's going on here? Like, huh? I've never been with you because I needed to be with you. I've been with you because I wanted to be with you. It took me a while to really understand what he was saying. There's a huge shift in gender roles due to societal expectations. And especially in a Mexican household, men are the breadwinner. And when they're not, there is this form of shame. There is this form of like, like you not being good enough as a male. Like you should be able to provide for your family. That's something very, very big. And then on top of that, the fact that he's a man. And there was also a shift for me. And it was one that I really had to work on. Because now that I'm making more money and now that I'm providing the household with more money, like that shift also happened mentally. So does this mean that I have to protect the family? Does this mean that I have to provide this sense of financial security for the family? And it started to feel like, and it's nothing Willie was doing. It's just, again, we've never been in this position before, right? Willie and I had never been in the position where I was out earning him. And so like, what does that mean? And so I also was kind of like in this tug of war with it because I felt like this pressure, and it wasn't pressure that Willie was putting on me. It was just with this sense of financial security, I can't take days off. I have to make sure I work, and I have to make like, it was just like I started to feel like, and I don't know if it's like this for you guys, but for me it was like, okay, well, I can't fail. I can't fail. The family's relying on me, to go ahead and provide. And it was all of this pressure. Again, nothing Willie was putting on me, but things that I was putting on myself. I didn't realize I was putting it on myself. And I started to get really, really frustrated with the way Willie was handling the money. And it's crazy because wait a minute, when Willie was the sole provider, when Willie was the sole provider, he never acted that way with me. He didn't tell me what I could and couldn't spend money on. He wasn't on my ass. It was never like, this is my money, not your money. And so it was interesting that there was this shift for me. And I wasn't like hoarding money and I wasn't putting money away, but it was just like, again, back to like, there's this thought that now I have to provide for the family. And so I need to pay attention to how Willie's spending. And, now the kids are in private school and now, we're going to resorts instead of hotels, and now our vacations are different. Like everything started to shift. Now we have a financial advisor. Now we have, a bookkeeper, an accountant. Like we have all of these people in place. We have house cleaners. We have all of these things, right? And it was just like, okay, well, we have to make sure, it's spent accordingly, and don't get me wrong. I did indulge, but it was just like, I don't know. I don't, ladies, and help me. Like, if you guys are listening to this and it's like, oh my God, me too. I felt that same way. Like, what is it? Like for me, it was, I can't explain it any other way except for saying it was like this sense of financial security that I had to provide for the family. And I had to make sure that we didn't do it wrong, because that was a huge weight. There was a huge weight on my shoulders. Again, nobody was placing this on me. It wasn't Willie's fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was just me. It was this added pressure. I got to make sure I hit those numbers or I hit higher numbers. I got to make sure all of these things are provided for the family. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? What is that? What is that exactly? And right now, this is the first time I'm talking about it, so I'm processing through it with you. But like, I want you guys to think about it. What is that? There's this mental shift. And I've heard other women say it too. I did this podcast series with high achieving women, and Jillian, I believe it was Jillian, she had said that her and her husband have separate bank accounts, and they were looking at purchasing an Airbnb. And, well, she was looking at purchasing an Airbnb, and she was capable of purchasing it, but her husband wasn't. And it was like she didn't want to make his fears her fears. But then there was like this little bit of like, I don't want to emasculate him either. Like I don't want there to have. I want to protect his emotions. I don't want him to feel less than. And so I want to open up this topic because it's a topic not a lot of us discuss. It's a topic actually nobody discusses. I haven't heard it. And this is why I wanted to make sure we discussed it here. Another thing that came up, I was at this women's summit. And I remember talking to a bunch of women, and they would like, it's like, everybody's doing their own thing. And, one of the women asked me, well, a bunch of women ask each other, not one, a bunch of women ask each other, what do you do? Right. And that's what it's all about. Like, what do you do? And so I remember being asked, what do you do? And, my reply was, I teach high achieving women how to stay married without sacrificing their dreams. And this lady literally shouted. I wasn't even talking to her. But the minute she heard me say that, she's like, I need your help. And all of the ladies were like, I need your help. But this woman said, can you teach me how to talk to my husband so he doesn't get his panties in a bunch just because I make more money than him? And that's when I knew that I was onto something. She's like, and she just started, opening up, and she's like, I just don't see what the big deal is. And maybe it is a big deal to them. Maybe it's not. But for right now, I want to touch on the women's perspective. Like, do you guys feel that financial pressure too, to make these numbers? Because you know where you want to go, and you know what it takes to get there. And you also don't want to let your family down. And you also want to maintain some level of consistency, right? Yeah, that's a whole hell of a lot of pressure. That's a whole lot of pressure. And I didn't realize I was putting that pressure on myself until I started to feel some level of resentment towards Willie. And he brought it to my attention that he felt as if I was looking down on him, that he wasn't an entrepreneur. He felt as if like I thought he wasn't enough. And obviously that's far from the truth. I freaking love and adore my husband, but I wasn't communicating or showing that. And when he said that to me, I was like, oh shit, do I have resentment towards Willie because he's not an entrepreneur? And that took me a while to think about. And what I came to find is I wasn't resentful towards him. I was upset because of all the expectations that I felt like I had on my plate, like all the weight that I had on my shoulders. What I didn't realize is it was me placing that weight. It was me placing those expectations. It wasn't him. And what I wasn't communicating with him was, I need help. I can't do this by myself. Will you help me? And if I would have communicated that to him, I know what Willie would have said is, hey, wait a minute. I got your back. I'm in this with you. We're both working parents. I'm in this with you. But I was so stuck on assuming that role. And I didn't even realize it. I have to say, it's not just about us. And that's when I realized men also face their own set of challenges when their wives make more money. Insecurities about their masculinity, feeling inadequate or pressure to match their partner's income, and struggling with their role in the relationship can also weigh heavily on them. I had no idea. because we weren't communicating this. I wasn't saying anything. I was so stuck in my set of feelings and my own distorted thought process that it just, it, I don't want to say it didn't leave room, because I didn't know to leave room for it, if that makes any sense. And so one thing that kept on coming up was, Willie's insecurities. And the insecurities were based off of how I was treating him. As women, I hear a lot of women say that they, try to protect their husband's emotions. But what if we didn't have to? What if that was something that maybe we've created and they're doing just fine on working on their own? What if that can be true too? Or what if they're not placing those insecurities on us to fix? Like, what if they're not making it our responsibility?
Are you a high-achieving woman feeling the weight of success, yet struggling to find balance in your personal and professional life? If your mind is constantly racing with endless to-dos, family demands, and the unspoken competition between career and marriage, you're not alone. It's time to peel back the layers and address the deep-rooted challenges. You've tried it all: vacations, bedtime schedules, restructuring your calendar, and heartfelt conversations with your husband. Despite your best efforts, the struggle persists, leaving you feeling unheard and stuck in a cycle of frustration. I get it. I've been there too. But here's the game changer. Empower X with me, a 4-month invite-only experience crafted exclusively for high-achieving women like you. This meticulously curated group is your sanctuary for support, knowledge sharing, and a community committed to scaling businesses while enriching family life. Picture this: virtual mastermind meetings with a sprinkle of coaching every 3 weeks, lasting 2 hours, where you'll engage in deep dives into your challenges. It's a space for high-impact skill sharing, fostering growth, and unlocking breakthroughs in both your personal and professional life. As if that's not exciting enough, Empower X features an exclusive in-person retreat hosted by me in San Diego. Imagine practical workshops, meaningful connections, and a chance to strengthen our community bonds in a breathtaking beach setting. And the support doesn't stop there. With continuous access to our private messaging channel, you're just a message away from the guidance, advice, and camaraderie you need, including direct interaction with me. Ready to break free from the cycle and embrace a life where success doesn't come at the cost of your well-being? Apply now to Empower X. It's time to prioritize your aspirations, enhance your marriage, and approach motherhood with newfound confidence and support. Your journey to intentional living starts here. Go to veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. I'm so excited to meet you.
These insecurities and tensions can definitely impact a relationship, impacting our emotional well-being and the entire dynamic of the relationship, as I've said. So how does this imbalance in income affect us as mothers, the way we parent? One thing that I know it did for me is it was really important to me that my girls knew that at any time mom would be okay and mom would be able to survive. But I took it a little bit too far. Because now my kids, I shouldn't say now, but there has been a thought for my kids like, well, mom, if anybody would leave the relationship, it would be you. And it's like, what? I would not leave. And it's like, yeah, you would, mom. And it's like, oh shit, maybe I took that one a little bit too far. Maybe I took this whole independence thing a little bit too far. And the thought that comes up for me is, what was I attempting to prove? Like, and who was I attempting to prove it to that I could do it? But if I take it even deeper, as I ask all of my clients to do, if I take it even deeper, it was because I never felt that support, or that, not even support, let me fix that. I never felt that financial security in my own home growing up as a kid. I never felt it. There was always worries about money. There was always worries about whether or not dad was going to make the money. And my mom wasn't in a financial position to keep the home afloat. And I never want to put my kids through that ever, because I hated that feeling. I hated the feeling whenever we would go to my grandmother's house, my mom's mom's house. I hated the feeling that we would get when we would go to her house, and the way she would look at my mom. Oh, it pisses me off to this day. I love grandma. You were kind of mean to mom. Not kind of, you were mean to mom. The way she would look at my mom when she walked into the house, it was with disgust and disappointment. She knew we were there for a reason. She knew we were there for her to feed us. She did not like my dad. She despised my dad. And don't get me wrong, as a mom now, I can understand why. But I hated that feeling I would get watching her look at my mom with disgust and disappointment. And the amount of shame my mom would have. And I knew, I can't say I knew entirely because I was just a kid. But now looking back, I know it took a great amount of like swallowing her own pride to walk into that door just so she can feed us. She can, provide food for us. But every single time my grandmother would say, "Are you guys hungry?" And she would be pissed saying it. And we didn't want to say yes, but yeah, fuck yeah, we're hungry. You already know why we're here. Like, why are we playing this game? I never wanted my kids to have that same feeling, ever. And so that's part of the reason why I personally, maybe not maybe, I'm trying to sugarcoat it here. That is definitely one of the reasons why I have done that, and I've worked so hard to make sure my kids never go through that, but the way it was translated was not in a healthy way. And that's something I realized, and I definitely need to address, and am addressing slowly. I want to make sure that my kids know that they are capable of doing anything they set their minds to. And I don't mean to make that sound cliche, but it's really, really important to me because, like I said, that wasn't modeled for me. But this imbalance, if not treated, if not given if not given steps, right, it can lead a woman or anyone to added stress, guilt for not being fully present with our children, and a sense of pressure to provide material things for our families. And I remember feeling that added weight of like, I need to provide more, and this has to be consistent and I can't fall short. Willie's income is consistent. Every single month, it's the same amount, right? My income, so because I already know Willie's is consistent, and sure, he gets raises, but they're yearly raises. I need to make sure I'm able to step up my game so we can continue providing for our kids at the level that we're providing for them. And this is so far from the truth. The kids could give two shits. But in my mind, it's like, well, you can't go back. And so because this is the first time I am going to Europe, this is the first time I'm taking all these trips, like, I want to make sure that this continues. And the way that this is going to continue is if I work harder. But if I work harder and if I work more, then that's time away spent from my kids, which is like this double-edged sword. And so it's like, okay, then what do I do? Well, then now you have to be more creative and hustle, and you got to figure out a way of making passive income, and you have to figure this out. And it was like, again, back to all of these pressures placed on myself. Like, I have to do it. I have to do it. Why wasn't I sharing the workload Well, I'll tell you why. Because like I said earlier, Willie's income is consistent and he's not changing anything. So I have to change something. Aha. There's the resentment. He's not changing it. I have to change it. Well, because he doesn't feel this pressure, I have to do it. And that's where arguments may arise from financial disagreements. And behind closed doors, we may feel embarrassed to admit the strain this places on our marriage. And yeah, it did. It totally did. And it was me positioning myself at a higher level than my husband. And that, my friends, is called contempt. For those of you guys that don't know, it's one of the um, four main predictors of divorce, and that one's like the primary one. So yeah, I was stuck in that contempt. Didn't even realize I was doing that. Why was I doing it? I mean, there's no excuses, but it's because I didn't heal that part of me. I didn't heal that sense of like being without. And so it was triggering that. And if I lose this, if I don't perform, if I don't do all of the things that I need to do, then I'm a failure and I would have failed my family. And that pressure would piss me off because it was like, well, wait a minute, why doesn't Willie have the same pressure? Well, duh, he doesn't have that same pressure because you're putting that freaking pressure on yourself. So how many of you guys feel that same way? Where you're like, dude, this totally resonates with me. I'm in that same loop. I'm in that same hustle. I want to know about it. Would you guys send me a message? Send me a message. You can find me on Instagram. My tag name is Hey Veronica Cisneros. You guys can find me on TikTok, and I'll give you guys all of my social media tag names on the show notes. But like, anybody else feel that same way where it's like, holy shit, this makes sense on why I'm doing all of these things and it's hurting my marriage. It's impacting my relationship with my husband. It's creating so much chaos, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm going to give you actionable steps we can take to navigate these situations. First and foremost, I want to tell you open and honest communication with your partner, right? Like that's the go-to. That's the go-to with everything. That's bullshit. It is bullshit. We're going to get there, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is being honest with yourself. Where are you at? What resentments do you have? Right? Like, what is coming up for you? Let's say I open up your bank account, right? And we open up and we look at your bank account statements. And we go through how much you made in comparison to how much your husband made. What comes up for you? Right now, say it. Don't think about it, just say it. Whatever that word is, how is that a driving force for you in your relationship, in the way you view your husband? And is this his issue or is this yours? I'm totally calling you out. Why am I calling you out? You already know. You already know. If you're listening to this podcast this podcast in particular, you already know I'm going to call your ass out. Why am I going to call your ass out? Because there's not going to be any change unless I do. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So why is this coming up for you? What is this? Is this really him or is this yours? And if you're going into, well, Veronica, he's never going to get it together. He's never going to be at the space that I need him to be. Why do you need him to be there? Why do you need him to be at that level? Why do you need him to be an entrepreneur? Veronica, why did you need him to be an entrepreneur? Because I needed consistency. Well, wait a minute, Veronica. He's a retired Marine. Like, in addition to that, he's working. Like, he didn't just retire, he's still working. Why isn't that enough? Well, because I wanted more. Okay. But your more might be different than his more. And he wants that for you too. And he wants that for the family too. And so how is he a part of supporting you and supporting the family? How has he been a part of it this entire time? So maybe it's not him. Maybe it's the way I view things. Maybe it's my perspective. And I want you guys to think about that. Think about that for a minute. The next step is establishing mutual financial goals and creating a plan to achieve them together. This can foster a sense of partnership and shared responsibility. I want you guys to both write down, like, what are your goals? What are your interests? Where do you guys want to be 5 years from now? And I know, Veronica, 5 years from now? Yes, 5 years from now. Where do you guys want to be? Do you want to move? One thing I realized was I wanted to make more money because I wanted to buy a bigger house, and I wanted to do this and this and this. And then once I drove through, once I drove through the area of where I wanted to live, I was like, well, when would we move here? Because the kids love their school. They have amazing friends. We love their teachers. Like, when would we actually do this? Like, I'm in this race to go ahead and buy a bigger house with more land in, this area. And for what? Like, we're not going to move here right now. Like, why? What are you doing? What are you doing? And it really started making me, think about, like, I'm going to pull this up right now. I'm totally going to pull this up. I know I'm recording. I'm aware, but I'm going to pull this up. Like, I'm going to read this. I read Matthew Perry's book. I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't read it, read it. It is so good. One of his quotes was, you have to have all your dreams come true to realize they're the wrong dreams. I'm going to repeat that for people in the cheap seats. You have to have all of your dreams come true to realize they're the wrong dreams. Once I drove through that neighborhood, I realized there's no way in hell I would move here now or 5 years from now. Sure, it'd be nice, but for what? I'd move the kids from all of their friends. There'd be another transition. Like, why would I do that? Is this really what I want? Or is it the idea of what I want? Which then led me to think about, like, where I'm currently at today in my marriage, with business, with my identity. And I don't want any of that to change. I don't. It just gave me this sense of perspective. Third step, I want you to seek support. And no, I'm not telling you to go to a therapist. I'm not saying that. But I want you to go ahead and really take this deeper. Like, take this so deep, because I feel like we're in this constant hustle, right? We're in this constant race against time, race against deadlines, race against tasks, late to a meeting, right? Creating a meeting, creating ideas. And that's a beautiful thing about us. That's a beautiful thing about us is our brains. We can come up with these beautiful, crazy ideas, like ideas outside of the box. And we're good at executing them. We're so good. I don't know if you're like me. I did this Clifton strengths test. I don't know if you've taken it. Take it. Taken the Clifton strengths test, and my results, the number one was high achiever. And my worst skill is, I don't know what the hell they call it. I don't know what the term is. I'd have to look it up, and we don't have time. But it's something along the lines of, like, you just take shit and you go with it. Like, fuck it, we'll figure it out on the way over there. Like, I tend to do things that way, right? And you guys all have done so many amazing things. You're a mom, you're, a badass, right? You're doing all of these amazing things. And yet we do it on our own. We don't have a community support us. So before we wrap up, I want to introduce you to Empower X, a community where high-achieving women like you can find support and empowerment. So here's what I want you to do, because this is a personal invitation. I want you to go to veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/empowerx to learn more and to join our community of strong, empowered women. This is an application. Why is it an application? Because we don't have time to waste. None of us have time to waste. I want to make sure that everybody that's in this group, it's going to be a small group. It's going to be a group about 8 to 10. We're going to be meeting virtually every 3 weeks. We're going to be meeting for 2 hours. And it is a tight-knit community. You guys are going to have access to me. With this community, though, it is important that we are able to lean on each other, provide each other with support, really, really challenge each other to think outside of the box. And I know you don't have that now. I know a lot of people really don't understand you. And I know that you do a lot to protect other people's emotions, but you also want to be celebrated. And you also have all of these beautiful ideas to do more. But you're struggling with guilt. Guilt because your kids complain that you work too much. You're struggling with frustration because your husband constantly reminds you that he's tired of competing with your career. And so in this community, we're here to support each other. And I'm going to give you actionable steps to take with instructions, not only what to do, but how to do it to go ahead and live the life you want to live. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Empowered and Unapologetic. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Stay strong, stay empowered. Bye.
Raise your hand if you are ready to level up your marriage for 2023. Do you find that you're spending your time together with your husband checked out and in front of the TV? I know you're ready for tangible strategies that actually get you results. Reignite the spark in your marriage, have fun, and grow together. Well, I hope you have your hand raised at this minute because I have something special for you. I'm introducing my brand new 6-question marriage predictor quiz that's gonna give you personalized results to catapult you into the next stage of your marriage journey. That means you'll receive the results to where your marriage can get the best help. If you've got just 1 minute, head to veronicacisneros.org/quiz. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, and you could take my brand new quiz, Marriage Predictor. Get your results delivered right to your email address. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, veronicacisneros.org/quiz. What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now, write a review, rate the episode, and subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends.
It's easy to blame ourselves for our struggles with alcohol. We see people around us being able to control their drinking without any consequences, yet no matter what we try, we can't seem to figure it out for ourselves. My name is Jillian Teets, and I am the host of the Sober Powered podcast, where I use my biochemistry background to explain the latest research in addiction and help you understand both why you drink the way you do and how to develop the skills and mindset you need to find freedom from alcohol. I discuss topics like why we think about our drinking 24/7, why we have no off switch, and why we crave alcohol. If you're struggling with your drinking or you know someone who is, then I hope that you will check out the Sober Powered podcast. New episodes every Friday. See you there.